I'm being joined by Matt Coyle, who wrote the Rick Cahill mystery series. He'll be talking about the seventh and newest one, Blind Vigil. I guess to get started, is there anything you want to, any introductory words you want to say about the book, the series, to get started?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Regarding the series, this, as you mentioned, this is book 7. A little backstory on Rick. He is a former cop. It's been about 15 years, I think, when this book starts, where his wife was murdered back in Santa Barbara. He'd been a cop. He was arrested for the murder. Never tried, released, but never exonerated. So he's carried that baggage for many years of thought to be the guy who got away with murder. And in many ways, he felt responsible for actions he took the night she died. And now, but he's gone back to years ago, he went back to his hometown of San Diego to become a private investigator. And in this book, Blind Vigil, he's a spoiler, the cover says it basically, Blind Vigil. He had a traumatic event at the end of the last book, Lost Tomorrows, where he actually found out the fate of how his wife was murdered, kind of solved that case, and felt a little bit of relief in his guilt over her death all these years. But he had a traumatic incident where he's lost his vision, and he's in a completely different place, aside from not being able to see as Blind Vigil opens, but also because he's in kind of a better place than he's been in a long time, ironically, even though of the physical damage. He's in a committed relationship with a woman he loves. And he's decided he doesn't want, even if he could be, he doesn't want to be a private investigator anymore. That's something he thought about in the last book, that too many people get hurt when I try to do the right thing. So he starts to question whether he even knows what the right thing is. So as this book opens up, he's trying to figure out what he's going to do with his life. And there are financial concerns. His girlfriend, they're back in San Diego, but she spends time in Santa Barbara. Also, my dog Angus just came to say hi. Hi,
Great.
And so he's trying to figure things out. And one thing he knows, he doesn't want to be a private investigator anymore. And if a sometime partner he used to work with named Moira McFarlane asked him for help at the beginning of the books. A guy used to be his best friend, has hired her to spy on his girlfriend to see if she's cheating on him. And Rick doesn't really want to do it, but Moira's hesitant to even take the case because she's had a bad experience the last time she took what they call a domestic, where she found out for a husband that the wife was cheating, and the husband killed the wife and committed suicide. But she also feels a responsibility to the target, the woman. So she wants to do things right, and she wants Rick to come with her to an interview with Turk, just to listen to his voice, and because he used to know him very well, to see if there's anything off about the conversation, if he's being truthful. And he does, and things ensue, and people die. It's a PI book.
Of course. Yeah. Rick following his gut, which leads to good and bad, of course.
Exactly.
So I wanted to point out, I really am interested in all of your books' titles. I like how they're, succinct, but they really, they carry basically the meaning, especially the first one, Yesterday's Echo. That's basically what he's dealing with, because we get introduced to everything that's haunting him. And even Blind Vigil, I believe you actually used that phrase early on in the book when Rick is in the car, Moira's left him to kind of follow Shay, I believe. And I think he says, who thinks the word like Blind Vigil.
Right.
Do you have like a process when you come up with titles? Is it kind of something that comes to you? Is it different for each book? Because that's a kind of almost a weighty thing, I guess, to come up with something that's going to represent your book.
It's very weighty. I don't have a process, but I have to make it 2 words, because my first book, Yesterday's Echo, as you mentioned, was 2 words. That the publishers liked it. And so from then on, I've had to come up with 2 words. Yesterday's Echo also, most of them come organically from the book. There's a phrase that may be in there that's used. It's condensed to 2 words. And that happened with Yesterday's Echo, which is Yesterday's Echo is kind of like the name of the arc of the whole series, where everything that's happened in Rick's past kind of comes back to haunt him. He can't get away with a bad decision. But for this book, it was kind of difficult. Normally happens to me that I don't have it until I'm done or near the end. And I've been writing the book for a year, and I'm thinking, I don't have a title. This is horrible. Remember with my second book, Night Tremors, I had a 2-word title, but it wasn't very good. And I knew it wasn't very good. And so I sent it in to the publisher, and they said, "That's your title?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Well, it's not good enough." And I said, "Well, I know, I want your help." And they said, "We can't help you." And it was funny. That book took me 2 years to write. And so I was writing all that time knowing I didn't have a very good title. And once my editor said, "We need a new title and we need it in a certain time period," it came to me within 15 minutes, which was the pressure. But for this book, Blind Vigil came to me fairly late in the book. I've had a couple books like Blood Truth came to me early, so early that I was concerned that the process was off. But generally, they come organically through the writing process, and they do sort of have to condense down the theme or meaning of the book into a couple of words, and it is difficult, but it's important. And I've been lucky so far. I think the titles all pretty much work.
That's great. I know it's not yeah, it's gonna be the easiest thing. You want to, have it fit your book, and I'm sure like you said, you can feel as the author when it's off, when it's not,
Right.
right.
Exactly. I know some authors that start with the title,
Yeah.
which might be easier, but my process doesn't work like that.
Everyone's different. So I know you've mentioned in a different interview that I had seen that we have posted to our Twitter page if anyone wants to look, of you talking about your process for really researching how Rick is going to live like in his new state of blindness, which is fascinating. And I was wondering if when you were writing, the last book, and then you decide he's going to be blind, what was your process when you decided, my character's going to be blind? Was that kind of, it's a daunting decision. Did you feel nervous going into that, or just kind of excited for what the opportunity was going to be?
Well, I didn't feel nervous when I closed the last book, Lost Tomorrows, with it, because I thought it was a perfect ending.
Right.
There's a little bit of I'm always blank on it. It was kind of literary in some sense, that Rick has finally learned the truth, and now he can no longer see.
Mhm.
I thought it was a great ending, fantastic, loved the ending. And then a couple months later, I got to start writing the next book, and I thought, what a dummy you are to try to write about a blind detective. And I did leave it open that there was a possibility his vision could come back. And I talked to an ophthalmologist, and I talked to a MD. Angus, stop! He's eating something. Sorry. He's 9.5 years old, and he's still a puppy. And so I left it open. There was a medical possibility his vision could come back. So as I'm trying to, it took me a long time to get into this book to figure out how to do it. I'm thinking, well, you could have had just between the 9.5 months or whatever it is since he lost his vision, it could come back because you left that as a possibility. And then I thought, well, that's cheating. And I thought it would lessen the impact of the last book. It would make it less real. But I was so concerned about it. All my books are in first person. I was so concerned about it that I would be able to carry the story spoken from first person from a vision impaired character, a PI novel, that I actually introduced a third person character, a bad guy, in the beginning as I was writing the first draft. And I would just write about one scene every 4 or 5 Rick scenes. I'd write this bad guy. And I really liked the bad guy. It was fun. I hadn't written third person since I was in college, which is a long time ago. But as I went further and further along, I realized that this is a Rick book, has to be told completely in Rick's voice. And so after about 100 pages, I wasn't writing that character anymore. So I pulled him out. But I was really concerned about it. It was the most difficult. Well, probably, they're all so hard. Probably the most difficult book I had to write for those reasons. And because Rick was in a different spot, I didn't have my old crutches to fall back on. Yeah. But it was challenging, but I think I made the right choice by making him it's got to be first person. It's got to be Rick.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it translated very well. And, seeing, you had spoken about all the research you did, the authenticity, but felt there. But I was thinking, I was like, this is coming across so thorough. I can't even imagine the work that, that went into it. But no, I think it was great, and I love how you all his other senses, are obviously he's becoming more attuned, and that's kind of how he is able to figure out some things are wrong, with the
Right.
invisible man, and no one's believing him, but he was able to do that. Did you notice yourself noticing anything that you never, I know you're not walking around blind, but just writing those, did that like ever open up your mind to maybe trying to listen more, or did that ever happen at all?
Well, that's a good question. It made me it it made me realize, although I think that I have a pretty good nose, but it made me realize that I can't discern things that well, like, or describe what I want to. I was trying to describe the smell of Dove deodorant. If you read the book, obviously, the Dove deodorant thing.
Mhm.
And I really couldn't come up with a good description of it. So I ended up just calling it Dove. Now, anybody that's worn the Dove knows the smell, but I don't
Right.
think I ever came up with a, and I actually, I hope I put her in the acknowledgments. I think I did. I talked to a woman, a mystery writer, but she's also a perfume expert. And I got a lot of information her that way, like what does particular perfume smell like and that. But I never got a great one for Dove, although very distinct smell. I can smell it any time.
Yeah.
But it did make me, the listening part, maybe not so much. With your eyes closed, you can probably do it. And I did.
Right.
I did walk around at night. I bought a cane, a white cane, and I walk around at night with my eyes closed a little bit, and in my house as well. But it made me realize that how difficult it would be, and that I don't have the senses to do it. Your other senses do improve, but really they improve if you lose your eyesight, or obviously if you're born that way when you're younger.
Right.
It's really from like 0 to 8 where it has the most effect. And so, I probably exaggerated things with Rick. But of course, he's not always right either. But yeah, it made me think about all those things. It made me realize how hard it was to write about being somewhere in a scene,
Yeah.
and trying to describe it and make it interesting to the reader, not being able to see.
Right.
And fortunately, or not fortunately, but I put Rick in a lot of situations of areas he's been before.
Mhm.
So he would try to put that picture in with the information he had through his other senses. But yeah, it was a difficult task, and it gave me a greater appreciation for people that are vision impaired. And I learned there's various levels of vision impairment.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate to talk to a couple of women that gave me a lot of good information.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Just seeing your acknowledgments and just hearing you talk, it's just amazing when you see how much goes into a book, how many people, sometimes you have to consult, it's just how much expertise you have to find, which is amazing. And so if there's anything you want to say, that I'm not hitting with questions, feel free to let me know.
Oh,
I
sure.
just am asking some questions. So I really, I thought it was interesting also the choice of, what Rick is investigating, because in many ways, okay, this is his kind of former friend, and he's basically being accused of something Rick has been haunted by. He was basically accused of the same thing, and that took
Right.
so many years. He's not that he's over it, but it took him many years to really kind of start moving on. And I think that really fueled, I think in a way he was able to, well, from what I saw, it was almost not only that it's, he still cares about, his friend, obviously, even though they've had all their, differences and, and obstacles, but he's kind of able to do something for him that he probably wishes someone had done for him when he was in the same situation, is almost how I read it, where, most people were just turning their backs on him, but now he's been there and he can find the truth.
Right.
How was it to, kind of revisit that and put him almost like on the other end of that situation, trying to get someone else out of being falsely accused in the same
Right.
way?
Yeah, he was pretty much, because of his own doing, some of his own actions in the first book, yesterday's Echo, that he's out on his own.
Mm.
He made some mistakes and he withheld information, but
Mhm.
people can read the book to find out why.
And so did, his, Turk also, you find out,
Yes,
there were things he was kind of,
right,
he was, not that he was guilty, but there were things that he had done that didn't help his case.
right. Everyone has secrets, and they may think, they have the right to hold things back, but really, for the police to get the job done, they need to know everything. But the thing about, Rick there's a couple things. Yeah, Rick is obviously trying to free himself from his own past by helping find the truth and exonerate his friend, hopefully exonerate his friend. But he's also he's this Turk was like a brother to him. He never had a brother. He took him under his wing when he worked in in Turk's father's restaurant when he was 14, and Turk was like 3 years older, I think. And they'd had a very close relationship that had a falling out way back with Yesterday's Echo. I think just in being around him, he realized that, how much Rick doesn't have much of a family. He's got a mother and a sister he doesn't really communicate with.
Mhm.
And he's got his sidekick. He's really Moira's sidekick, the other PI he works with, Moira McFarlane. And then he's got this newer girlfriend, Leah, but he hasn't really had a nuclear family, and he's very closed off guy, but these friendships, they really mean a lot to him. The close ones he has mean a lot to him. So he saw Turk, this guy that he'd once loved like a brother, and he was in a horrible situation, and he felt like he had to help him, and he'd get upset with him, but then he realized, the bond they always had. So he for one thing about Rick, when he tries to find the truth, he's very manic about it. He's bulldogish about it. It's kind of it's unhealthy in some ways. He lives by his father's code, handed down to him by his late father, who was also a cop with a bad reputation. Sometimes you have to do what's right, even when the law says it's wrong. And you put those together with this manic need to find the truth, and it can be a very dangerous place to be, because Rick breaks the law all the time.
Of course.
But because he thinks he's right, which is not. But you can't have society that way. And if everybody's that way, you couldn't have a society.
Mm.
But yeah, he sees a Turk he's never really seen before. That's the other key, is that Turk has had many girlfriends. Turk was a great guy, loved him. Everybody loved him. He's a hail fellow, well met. And every relationship he'd ever had that broke up, no hard feelings. But it was like him. It was like, I don't know if you ever watched the Seinfeld show, whatever. It was like, another one will come along. He never really was that attached. And here he is now. He's hired Moira to follow her because he's concerned about her fooling around. The old Turk would just, well, that's it, I'm moving on. So obviously he's hugely involved with this woman in a way that Rick's never seen. He's also never seen the vulnerableness in Turk that also makes him feel more, I have to protect him.
Yeah.
One thing I want to say, you told me to say anything or ask.
Of course.
All your questions are really good, but one thing I wanted to say, and it wouldn't come up in the form of a question, was when Rick's. If people that read the series know that he's pretty messed up. He's damaged. He's a damaged character, and I don't look as vision impaired people as victims. Now, Rick has a bit of a victimhood himself. And so I just wanted, not that you didn't ask any questions regarding this, but I just wanted, for all the vision impaired people, this is not how I see them, but I see, well, if Rick has lost his vision, his mind's going to be in all these kind of messed up places because that's where he is. Mm-hmm. And so it's just this one particular character, this is how he would deal with being vision impaired. And, there's this one woman who I acknowledge, I dedicated the book to, Ariel Emivisca, who I met at a Vons across the street from where I live. When I was writing this book, I'd see her with her cane, and I always wanted to, I said, there's a perfect font of information I can learn. I'm right in the middle of this book, and I could actually talk to somebody, but I didn't want to come up and disturb her, this voice out of the darkness, can I talk to you about being blind? But I walked over there one day to Vons, and she was out in front talking to one of the employees, and she was trying to find the Subway sandwich shop in this mall. It's not a very big mall, but there are a couple nooks and crannies. She knows the area very well. She's just never been there. So I said, hey, I'll walk you. And I told her what I was doing. And we spent about 3 or 4 hours together that day. And we become friends. And I got great information. And but I was so struck about how she'd have to deal with her life, rebuild her life, She was 19 and a model, and she got in a car accident, one car accident, was in a coma for over a week, lost her vision, and, you know, had her life in a certain area. Now she's had to completely rebuild it. And I just have a lot of admiration for her. And, you know, the struggles just to go through that, if you hadn't lost your vision, to have your life upended like that. But, you know, there's a lot of courageous people out there dealing with their own situations. And I haven't met any victims except for Rick.
Oh, right. But I think that, I mean, I think you translated that very well. It was, you know, he's dealing obviously with so many issues, as, you know, everybody's got their things, you know, even before, you know, he, you know, was blind. But it was, I feel like it was a very empowering, you know, portrayal, because he, you know, he could have just said, you know, I mean, in a little bit, he, you know, he, I'm sure, was discouraged, and who wouldn't be, you know, but he, you know, really persevered, and he learned all of these things that obviously cannot be easy, just the counting and the walking. And I mean, there's so many times when he was just walking by himself, or he had gotten turned around, and I would feel so, you know, I was feeling anxious, you know, which was a great portrayal, because you know, you could just, you must feel helpless, but he always got himself, you know, he pushed forward. So I feel like it was an empowering portrayal, because he's so determined, you know, he had his goals, and he wasn't going to let it stop him. And he, you know, found out, you know, he's doing all his research on, you know, he learned, you know, voice commands for his phone, and he's Ubering around. And so I think it was, you know, it was well, you know, really well done. You know, I really felt, you felt yourself in there with him, which was great.
Yeah, you mentioned the counting steps, and that's something I put in before I theorized that before I talked to anyone. And I really wanted that to be true. And then when I was talking to Ariel, she told me that's something she'd done. And after I'd written the book, a friend of mine, another author, who interviewed me on his show, his podcast, had a grandfather who was blind. He said he counted all the time. It's because it's kind of important in the book. I could have pulled it out if I needed to, but I was really happy that I was able to keep it in.
Yeah. But I think I'm sure that, you know, obviously I can't speak for anyone who has any vision impairment, but I feel like if you talk to enough people, they would, you know, one person may do something that somebody else doesn't. You know, I'm sure people come up with, you know, their own, you know, ways of coping, which is, you know, so even if somebody, you know, you never heard of anyone doing it, I feel like it would seem plausible, because, you know, that gives more independence, you know, and that's what it really, you know, he really got himself up to a lot of independence, you know, which was amazing. And also he had, I really just, I don't know if you have anything you want to say about Moira's character, but I just think it's, you know, it's so great to have, because, you know, Rick doesn't have, you know, a host of friends, for many obvious reasons, you know, but I think that she's so, you know, great, especially in Blind Vigil, because she, you know, he needs that voice of reason, you know, in many areas. And she is very, you know, you had mentioned about how, you know, he follows his gut, and it's not always right, but once he has that goal, he has to find it out no matter what, break rules, whatever. But I think it's so great to have somebody like that who's questioning him, because if he wasn't, goodness only knows.
Right. I always think of Moira as having four sides, and Rick has three. You know, she's the last side of reason. He always says she's a better PI than he is, and she's smarter than he is. But I never intended to have Moira in the books. I'm a blank pager, a pantser. You know, I don't outline. I used to do kind of a skeletal outline. I do less and less with each book. They get messier, but I just have confidence I can do it. Like the book I'm writing right now, I have no idea where I'm going, but I'm just writing. Yeah. So in the second book, Night Tremors, Rick was hired by someone, kind of a lawyer for a family, and so he ends up taking the case kind of reluctantly. But it turns out he didn't know. It turns out that the lawyer already hired Moira, and he dumped her because the family liked Rick better. And so she's just taking the case, sitting at his house, and there's this bam on the door, and he opens the door and he looks out, and he has to look down because she's only 5 feet tall, and she's just in his face. And he goes, I don't even know. You know, I didn't know about it, and she doesn't care. And they sort of work together a little bit in that book. And then I'll just go back quickly because my whole idea when I decided to write this series, even though I didn't have an idea, a story, character arc, I knew two things. One was everything matters. Every bad decision comes back to haunt him. The other one was he's a lone wolf. No one's ever going to help him get out of the situations he gets in. It's not going to have the Superman sidekick or anything like that, or the wealthy friend. So that I introduced Moira in book 2. In book 3, because Rick's situation with his father, his own situation, the cops can't help. They don't want to help him with anything. He has no cop friends. Moira has some cop friends. So a couple of phone calls in book 3 because Rick needs to learn some information she gets for him. And then in book 4, Blood Truth, I needed her for one scene. They were going to do a surveillance and he needed her in the foreground. He's taking pictures and really taking pictures over. They're looking like tourists on the beach. He's really taking pictures over her at a balcony on a hotel. And that was going to be it for her. And then they're walking back to their car and they have a conversation and she says something. I go, oh, wow. And so she was a huge part of the book. Like you said, she's the conscience. She's the conscience of that book. She's been in every book since to some degree. And this book, she's in it very much. And the book I just finished and turned in, Last Redemption, that comes out in November, huge part of it regards her. Now she is my, of all the recurring characters that come and go, she's my favorite character to write. And I can't imagine writing the series without her now. She's so important. And she really filled out Rick, where you can write a lone wolf and everything, but you have to humanize him. And he's humanized, as I look at my dog Angus. Rick is humanized by his dog Midnight, and he's now in a relationship. But still, he needs to. If you have her as the brakes and he's always pushing the gas, you also see that the mistakes he can make. And plus, he's got a friend, so he's grown. But I love Moira, huge character. So happy that I stuck her in one scene back in the second book, and she just became so important throughout. I can't imagine writing her. In Lost Tomorrows, she's not in it that much. She has an important part in it, but she's not in it that much, and because it's in Santa Barbara. So I was a little untethered, but I love writing her. I love their relationship, which is kind of like a brother sister, antagonistic, but true love for each other.
Yeah, I love that. And I love, kind of what you said, especially with seeing so many authors who like talk about their characters like as if, they have a life of their own, which I love to see that because, oh, they said this and that happened. Right. I think it's great because it means that, you're really invested. Were there any other surprises that ever popped up while you're writing the series?
Lots of surprises in the series. Yeah, I was trying to think specifically for. Well, yeah, I can just go back to Blind Vigil. Leah Landingham. I'm going to go back to Lost Tomorrows. I'm sorry. Leah Landingham was going to be in. She was a catalyst to get Rick to take this case about. She's the sister of his former partner who was killed, and she wants him to investigate because the cops think it was an accident, but she doesn't. And so they end up getting a relationship, and she's moved on to this book. And there's so many surprises, and that's what makes it fun. It'd probably be easier to write a book if I had everything mapped out, but I don't. But yeah, there's surprises all along the way. There was in Blood Truth, there's a character, has come back in different books named Peter Stone, who's a former casino mogul who's a bad guy. But he and Rick have this very antagonistic relationship. But there's in one book, Blood Truth, where they actually have to help each other. And I didn't even intend to have him in the book either. This is the way it works. This is the way the imagination works for me. Rick is doing a stakeout, and I'm thinking, well, I'm kind of bored here. I don't really know where to go now. And so a car rolls by him into the parking lot of this hotel, and it's Peter Stone. I go, well, why would he be here? And then that turned this book in a whole different direction. That's a great question about the surprises because it's all about the writing process. Is like I said, I don't outline, and when I'm writing a first draft, I'm just very open to everything. I'll probably write a first draft. They're all at least 100,000 words. I've written one that was 120,000 words, and then my books end up being around 93 to 5,000 words. And in cutting that 25 or that 15 to 20,000 words, I'm also adding another 10 to 15. So I'm really like cutting 30 to 40,000 words a book maybe.
Yeah.
But I want to be on that first draft. I want to be completely open to whatever comes into my mind. And I call it dropping anchor. Something will come to me in my subconscious and I just put it in the scene. I don't even know what it means. Like for example, the Peter Stone driving by in the car, didn't know what it meant. But my subconscious, and a woman who's kind of a mentor to me, Carolyn Wheat, says, your subconscious is much better writer than you are. And I believe her. So I'm always open. So if it pops in there, I drop it in. And I'd say 90% of the time, it leads to a greater understanding of what I'm trying to do. And I leave them in. A lot of times I have to pull up anchors. And the last book I did, I pulled in more anchors than I've ever done, which concerns me a little bit. But I'm just very open to anything that comes along. I'm not ridiculously. It has to make sense in terms of the plot. But I think, you're thinking about your book all the time when you're writing it, even when you're driving around, even when you're not really thinking about it, your brain's working on it. And I think I need to be, because I don't outline, I have to be really open to ideas that pop into my head, plug them in. You just pull them out. It doesn't matter. First drafts are meant to be bad because they are. And so that's where the surprises come for me, is where, oh, what is that? I don't know what that means. I'll put it in there and see where it goes. And then again, when you're pulling them out, it can be difficult because there are little, seeds along the way that you got to go back and remember to find too. But I read my books. I probably read them 10 times before with editing all the time before the final cut. But it's a very messy, not economical process, but it's the one every other process I've tried doesn't work for me. So I just have to do it this way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the best, because different things work for different people, and you want your book to be what you want it to be. I like the, not, because I know some people are very, not pantsers, they really have to plan,
Right.
Outline. But I think it's great because, especially with, this type of book where, you have extremely human characters, you have, their lives are messy, investigation cases, I think it's great that you're open, because, just as in life, anything could happen, and you're not, keeping anything out that, if you had a strict outline and had an idea and then you said, no, I can't, it's not in the outline, and then you might, be, not having things that could be. So
Right.
that's really great. Do you have anything else you want to throw in about the series, or, I don't want to.
Well, my next book, Last Redemption, comes out, like I said, November 30th. And it was another difficult book to write. They're all difficult. But like I mentioned earlier, that every bad decision Rick makes it's going to come back to haunt him. And that also includes every physical ailment, every physical injury he's taken. Yeah. And in Last Redemption, that's the major subplot, is all this physical abuse he's taken over the year, all this violence that's been in his life has now had a lasting, very detrimental effect on his health. Okay. And that's a spiral he's in as this book. And I'm trying to, as he's in a committed, decent relationship, and this health is put him in a very bad situation. How will he deal with it? That's where I am. What else do I want to say? I don't know. I lost it.
Maybe we'll get it. Well, in the meantime, I did want to just quickly with Leah, I thought it was interesting, because just how very I don't know what the best word, not adaptable, but she's so forgiving, and so dedicated, because there were some scenes where, she was kind of saying, my business is here, how about we move to Santa Barbara? And he was like, I'm stuck here, and you're expecting it to lead to like a fight or something, but she's just like, it's great, which, not like she's a pushover or anything, but just that she really, he's found, almost kind of like his own family, and it seems that she, even though she does have a family, she doesn't want to lose him in Midnight. So I feel like she's just a really interesting character in that way, where she does not want to lose, them.
Right. Well, it would make complete sense for Rick. He doesn't really have much in San Diego.
Right.
It would make sense for him to go up to Santa Barbara with her and start their life there. But Santa Barbara is where his first wife was murdered. Mm-hmm. And that's where The book that answers that question was called Lost Tomorrows, but if I'd had a 4-word title, it would have been City of Lost Tomorrows, because that's the place, that's where he found Leah, but that's where he lost his first wife, and his whole life spiraled into 15 years of angst. So it would be hard for him to go back there, but yeah, he's stubborn, and it'd be perfectly fine for her to leave him, but she does love him, and San Diego's not a bad place to live. But I think they don't talk about it, but in her mind, I think she understands what Santa Barbara means to him because of his wife. Because, like I said, her sister was his partner back when his wife was murdered. So they did sort of know each other a little bit then. But yeah, Leah's like I said, I never expected to write her. She's a fun character. I sort of have to have her in Santa Barbara a lot because I can't have Rick's home life. Well, what did you do today? Well, I get beat up, and then I broke a couple laws. And so the scenes she's in are very important. At one point, she's trying to give him I found this is an opportunity for you to make a better life for yourself, for us, and for people that are in your situation. This potential job she found in Santa Barbara, but the thing he was running from, he realized in taking this Turk case that this is what he was meant to do with his life, was to find the truth, but in a very messed up way.
Yeah, you can tell that, like you said, it's what he was made for, but you just never know like how long, because so many things go wrong, and
Right.
That's just, I'm thinking of Leah with the stress, you're just kind of like, she's not there and she's telling him, get an alarm system, do this, do that, and just like I can imagine what she must be thinking, she's not there, and she's like, all right, what's he doing now? And I love her like checking up with Moira, and then Moira calls him and he's like, oh, you guys talk to each other, checking. I just thought that was
it takes a village to look after Rick.
Yes, that could be, too long for a book title, but
even Midnight is, he's like, what are you doing now? He's got his eyes on him too.
Yeah. Well, this is great. If there's anything else you want to say, that's awesome. But if not,
no, thanks for having me. Like I said, the next book, Last Redemption, comes out in November. If anybody, you can go to my website, mattcoylebooks.com. You can email me from there if you have any questions or anything. And if you want to follow me on Facebook, you'll see pictures of my dog Angus doing couch yoga.
Awesome.
Matt Coyle. I don't know how Facebook works, but it's Matt Coyle. I mean, I do post about my dog on there. And Instagram, mcoyle044, I think. And Twitter, I just retweet things. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, there's so much. So yeah, so as a final, thank you so much again. This has been great, and I'm just enjoying the books. So we at the library, just to let everyone know, we have the whole Rick Cahill series, starting with Yesterday's Echo.
Yeah. I love the dust cover. Love the dust covers, by the way.
Oh yeah, they try to protect them because they get used. And of course, Blind Vigil newest, but we have all in between. We will be definitely keeping an eye out for that new one so we can order it as well. The books are available on some of our, like you said, go to your website. We have some library databases that have them in ebook form as well.